I want to know that I gave everything a go, and to live as much life as possible, knowing that I pursued my heart's desires.
Welcome to the Tales to Inspire podcast. Before we get started on this episode, I would like to invite you to our community so that you can hear more stories to inspire change within your life and positive change within the systems in which we live. All I want you to do is to click on the subscribe button. Your comments mean the world to us with anything that's resonated with you, and I absolutely love your support. I can't wait to go on this journey alongside you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get into today's episode. Today we're going to a deep dive with Amna Akhtar.
I'm Amna Akhtar, and this is my tale to inspire.
So Amna, we've known each other now for probably over 2.5, 3 years, and I always thought Amna I don't think she want to be on this side of the camera, and now we've got the opportunity of getting you on this side of the camera. I'm so buzzing, I'm so excited. So Amna Akhtar, thank you so much for being on the Tales to Inspire podcast. Actually, you know what? Would you like to introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been waiting for my invite to the Tales to Inspire podcast. My name is Amna Akhtar. I'm 32 years old, and I'm from Birmingham in the UK. And I am co-founder and creative director at GirlDreamer, which is a non-profit organisation aiming to serve women of colour aged 18 to 35 in the UK. Amazing.
So Amna, we're going to get to that point, but where did this all begin? You said Birmingham. What's your family background like? What kind of dreams did you have as a young Amna?
Oh, okay, that's a lot. So I'm from Birmingham, born and raised. My parents came in the 60s from Pakistan, and I'm the youngest of 4. And growing up, I had many dreams and aspirations. I was such a creative and very much someone who loved to explore. And I delved in a lot of sports. So growing up, I played a lot of football, cricket, basketball, everything that involved being active and running and being outside. I'd play with worms in the garden, just, casual Saturday with my cousin, try and find like bugs and ants and do all sorts. And growing up, I became quite drawn towards playing football. And in year 6, one of my PE teachers took an interest in me. There were like 25 boys and me. So I was the only girl who would play, and I'd get bullied for that, but I kind of got a buzz from it, because I was like, I'm so much better than you. Like, I'm just so going to score this and you're not, and it's going to irritate you so badly. And when I moved into secondary school, that all changed, because I went to an all-girls school. And I didn't want to go, but my parents suggested it would be a good idea. My sister had been there, so it was like, it's going to be the norm for you too. All my friends went to a different school, and so straight off the bat, I was just like, I've got no friends, this is lonely, like, I don't even play sports here anymore, they don't even have a good sports kind of department, or they're not even serious about sports. And most of the girls in my class would make up lies and like a fake sick note to the PE teacher to say why they couldn't do PE. And I think it all changed for me there, because my parents were like, that's enough sports now, like, you're growing up, you're going from girl to woman, so you need to start behaving like one. And then I think, that's when it all changed.
Were you objective towards that? Did you kind of like, you know what? No, I'm gonna do what you say anyway, against what you say anyway, or did you conform to what they said?
I did a bit of both. At home, I would be like, yeah, so I don't play sports anymore. It was like Bend It Like Beckham. When I tell you, I watched that movie in year 6. I was 11, and it was right when my PE teacher called my dad in, and he was like, the kids are being trained by Nike FC, like, we want to put Arm 9 for this training, and my dad was like, no, like, she's not going to be doing that. And then next week I went to watch Bend It Like Beckham. When I tell you, I've never felt more, I felt like Jess Bamra was me on screen, and the only thing was her ending was that she got to go to,
US, right?
Yeah, that's it, and live out her dreams. And I just always felt like, would that ever happen for me? Would I get to do that? Would I get to stand at the airport and wave at my parents and say, I'm going to chase my dream, I'm going to the US? And I've always been drawn to the US. I've loved the US since I was a child, and I think it's to do with the whole idea of the American dream and this idea of like you can be whoever you want, you can achieve whatever it is that you want, and as long as you set your mind to it, anything is possible. Having that mentality in Birmingham is, it's difficult.
So we're going to go into the US, and I'm actually going to, anyone who's listening to the podcast or watching the podcast today, probably have a tick box for how many times we talk about the US, because we're definitely going to be mentioning the US a lot. But did you have a lot of anger towards your parents for essentially telling you what you could and couldn't do?
No.
Why not?
It's strange, I don't know. And a lot of people do ask me that, like they say, have you forgiven your parents? And I say I've never held anything against them to forgive them. And I think it's because growing up, it was strange, but I had a lot of empathy in me. I'm very sensitive to how people feel, and I'm drawn to people's emotions. And so whilst my parents decided that this was a bad idea for me, and I could have held that anger and resentment, I almost understood as a child why they were doing that. And it's because there wasn't anyone like me who had done it anyway. There probably are, of course, there must have been, but they weren't represented on billboards or TVs. And for me to be the first in the community, that's unsafe territory. And so this whole idea of like, what will the community say, and what will people say if, they're like, Amna's running around in shorts with guys on a pitch, what's that about? And I didn't want that humiliation for my parents or for them to keep answering these questions from the community. And so it was heartbreaking because it was my one passion, and I'm not academic. I don't excel in maths or English or history. I don't really care. I mean, I love those subjects, just not in a school format. Yeah. And so I wasn't excelling in anything but PE. And so for that to be stripped away from me, it was hard, but I had full compassion for my parents.
It's like 2.5 years, we've touched base, we've had calls, we've met. I never knew this, right? How did we never talk about this?
We're too busy talking about the US.
Yeah, it's so true. So to go through that experience, now I've got a question about religion and culture, okay? Because often people say, oh, that's the religion, you don't do that. Or sometimes actually it's not the religion. A great example of this is organ donation, where people say, actually, no, we don't believe in organ donation, but actually there's nothing said in whatever that religion is about organ donation. It's the culture. So there's two different countries that can say yes. One say yes, one says no. It's not because of the religion, it's because of the culture. How much of this was about religion and how much of this about culture in terms of whether women are allowed to play sports outside with boys?
I would say it was 50-50, but I would say also that it would be religion heavy under the... No, wait. It was 50-50, but I do feel like religion was weighing heavy because I'm Muslim, I grew up Muslim, I'm still Muslim, and to have a woman playing sports in shorts or on a pitch with guys or whatever, it's not seen as the best thing to be doing. And whilst there are Muslim sports women who are playing tennis or football or whatever it is, I mean, things have changed so much now where you can even play hijab whilst you're playing sports, which is phenomenal. But back then, obviously, that wasn't the case. Like, you would have to be in shorts. Like, I'd always wear, like, trackies and, like, literally like Jess Bamra. Yeah. And then, the day she had to wear shorts, she was like, oh, my God. And she had that thing on her leg where she burnt her leg. And so there's always something holding you back, whether it's, like, religion, culture, community, family, yourself. But it was never myself. I feel like one thing I've always had in me was that self-belief and confidence, but it was always external things that were always like, oh, you should think about that.
Mm. It's as if like the external is not Amna Akhtar ready. Mm. Like you are ready, they're not ready for you.
I love that.
And it's kind of like they need to adjust. I think
that's what it is, yeah. The world's not ready, Krish.
And it's becoming ready. Well, there's this incredible philosophy and concept in Nichiren Buddhism that talks about, and I've talked about this loads on the podcast, Esho Funi. And Esho Funi is when you change, your environment changes. So you can't effectively change your environment. You can try your hardest, but until you change, you are one with your environment, it will automatically change your environment.
I love that.
And it's really easy, even from my own perspective, to try and change others. Oh, why don't you change? What? You're so annoying. No, you can't change that. Like the systems, why is the system not built for me? It's not working. Change yourself and everything else will start to change automatically because you're changing yourself. And essentially, that's what you're doing. So, right, where does your journey go from there?
After school, so I then, well, during school, I also ran an Olympic qualifying time for the 100-metre sprint. And so my PE teacher again called my dad in and was like, we want to train Amna for the Olympics. It was the Beijing Olympics coming up at the time. I think there were 3 years left for it. And my dad was like, absolutely not. Got me from the wrist and he was like, right, let's go. And I mean, that's just giving you a sneak peek into what it was like. Like every couple of years, something else I'd be talented in, and it was just like, no, this isn't good enough. After school, I went to college and I wanted to pursue forensic science. And my parents were like, what on earth is that now? Like, come on, like I think it was that it was out of their understanding, and because it was out of their understanding, they completely rejected it. It's like doctor, lawyer, engineer, pharmacist. And I was like, no, 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 and no. And so we were constantly butting heads, and it was just this whole idea of, you know, why are you so problematic? Why can't you just be normal and just get a normal job? Like, if you don't want to do this, do you want to open a Poundland? And I was like, a Poundland? Like, come on. I don't want to sit in a shop. Like, my dad was like, I'll open you a shop and like sell some things, like Poundland. I was like, that's not happening. I don't want to do that. Like, I have dreams of wanting to explore the world. Like, I want to go to Vietnam, I want to go to Ghana, I want to go to Japan, I want to go to America. Like, I want to see the world and I want to meet people. I want to extract their stories and learn from them. I can't do that in Poundland. Maybe now if I had like a TikTok live just there, I could interact with people from around the world. But for me, it was, I wanted to immerse myself in people's stories. I wanted to get to know them. I want to connect with people. And so I just went ahead and I done it anyway.
So, there's so much. My dad wanted me to open an Indian dessert store.
This is brilliant.
And I've never told anyone that. So, essentially...
So like jalebis.
Yeah. Gulab jamun, everything essentially, like... And it was like, I was like, are you mad? Like, do you know me at all? Like...
It's the audacity.
Like, I'm trying to do all of this stuff and start my own thing and what else? No, I think what's best for you is to do this. Or the other side for me is, because I'm a lad, my dad really loves football. Go and be a football referee. Keep going on football. So that life's gone, Dad. I can't do that. I tried. I fell out of love with it. I became a professional footballer, whatever, but I'm not opening an Indian dessert store. I can tell you that for free right now.
I think that would have been good. Like my Poundland store next to your dessert shop.
Could have made a partnership.
Perfect.
And it'd be absolutely amazing. And when things have gone like towards the end of the day, I could have been like, Amna,
You ever run out of forks, spoons, plates?
This is amazing. Right, Tales to Inspire is going absolutely. But look, like, stories then, right? Did you then go and become a forensic scientist? Did you go and do that degree, or did you pursue that, or did you then not go to college? How did you get into the story side that you said that's your passion?
Yeah, so I went to college, fell into depression. I didn't know what it was at the time. I was just feeling all of these different emotions and symptoms and this numbness. And it was because I felt so constrained and not able to express myself. Like everything I would say, everything I would bring home as an idea or as an idea to pursue, it was just met with no. And so instead of retaliating and becoming angry, I just became very withdrawn, quiet, numb. And I failed my first year, so I retook a year. So I was in college for 3 years. And when I left in the third year, essentially now I need to go to university, right? Because obviously I retook a year, but I was almost using that to buy time to understand what it is that I could pursue that would make them happy enough, but would make me happy too. And so when I finished, I didn't apply to any universities or anything. And then my mum was like, right, so it's May, you finish your exams, so which uni are you going to? I was like, yeah, that's a good question. And then I was like, oh my God, I haven't applied. And so I got on the phone, I think through clearing, I got in to do adult nursing at Coventry, Krish. And I didn't want to do it. I think it was the last course left. There were like 4 spaces. And then my mum and sister were like, right, you're doing this course, done. And like they spoke on the phone for me and they confirmed my space. And then they were like, right, you're starting in September. I've never been more mortified in my whole life than knowing that in 3 months, God, I'm going to be on this course and I don't want to do it. I felt really bad because I feel like adult nursing, just nursing, is a career path that you need to give so much to, and so genuinely as well. I wasn't giving anything because I didn't want to do it. And so, okay, September comes, it's Freshers Week, I go, and I'm there and I'm just like, this is not for me. I don't like Freshers Week. I don't want to meet new people. I don't want to be in Coventry, of all places. Sorry, Coventry. And I don't want to be here. And, you know, we started doing the like introductory sessions into like what, you know, the year is going to look like, kind of learning about like nausea and like fluids in the body and like orifices and like, you know, what happens when this fluid comes out of this area? And I'm just like, I do not want to be here. And so within a week, I quit the course. I went up to my course tutor and I was like, look, I need to drop out. And she was like, I'm really disappointed in you. You have made me so upset today because you've taken the space of someone who really wanted to be here. And I just thought inside, like, I just nodded again, like that withdrawn personality, like, how can I tell you what I'm up against? But I don't have capacity to do that and I don't think you'd understand. So I'll just have to take this and apologise again, and I'm really sorry. And so I left, I felt really crap about myself, but I didn't tell my parents or anyone at home for 3 months. I lied about going to university every morning. It was December, by the way, it was freezing cold. I'd get dressed, get ready, be like, all right, Mum, I'm going to uni now. And then I'd walk down the road to the bus stop and then my mate would pick me up, my best friend, and we'd go and sit in a cafe that looks very similar to the one in The Apprentice, the depressing one where the losers go to, in the polystyrene cups and everything. And like, we'd sit there for hours and just think. She was on a gap year at the time, so she had the free time to meet with me. And we both didn't pursue university. Like all our friends up went away to Manchester, London, everywhere. And so we were the only 2 left, and we were like, what are we going to do with our lives? You know, your parents want you to be a dentist. My parents want me to study anything just so I get a degree so that I can get married, because I'll have that picture where I'm holding the certificate. And, you know, what's going on? Why do we have these desires of wanting to be more and like leave a legacy behind? And why are we having these big extravagant ideas planted in our minds when, you know, it feels so impossible to reach? Why can't we just almost be normal? And I think having those meetings for 3 months really helped solidify a plan as to how we were going to pursue the next steps. And I think that's the moment in 2012, January, we decided we were going to go about this ourselves, set up our own company, go down a path of learning on our own terms, not in universities or not as part of institutions, but really go learn about humans. So we learned Reiki, we learned about meditation, we learned about yoga, we learned about the mind, everything to do with the brain. And I don't know why we were both fascinated about what it is that makes us human, but that's the path we took for about 2 years. We embarked upon just a journey of learning. We wrote 2 books. One of them we published and one of them we haven't. And in that book, we essentially felt like at that time we decoded what it meant to live a life consciously. So, you know, some of the chapters were about judgment, about community, unity, the importance of breathing, the importance of oneness. It was a very holistic book, and we were 18, And if I read it now, it's like, oh, that was so cute. But a lot of it applies because the foundations of it are about being human. And to be a human is very simple. Yeah.
I'm speechless. Like, speechless, because that is just, you went to the University of Humanity, the one that you created.
Yeah.
Not one that's a big, massive structure that says you have to do this, 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 and this. And you've said nothing against college, nothing against universities, but you went to get the learning that you needed. And the only way you felt how to do that, and you and Kieran, and I assume this is Kieran that you're talking about, right? You went and did it yourselves. How much easier would it have been if someone supported you on that journey, as opposed to you having to go on that journey and fight the battle to get it? Like, oh, amazing. Amna, thank you. Like, thank you for sharing. Now, is this book still available, by the way?
It's not. It's in my shed. I've got a few copies.
Right, I'm going to get one of those copies. Sorry, everyone else, I'm getting a copy. Right, so what did you tell your parents? After 3 months, they must have been like, what's going on?
I was running out of lies, to be honest, Krish. I was just like, how much can I say? That, yeah, the day was good. I've got nothing else to say because I don't know what to say. And I think it got to a point where I was tired. I was tired of lying. I was tired of like pretending and telling my mum about these sessions we were doing and stuff. I had to keep making things up, and it just wasn't me. I didn't want to live a life like this. And I thought, how long will I keep doing this for? I just need to tell them. Sorry, hang on.
There's something on that point. There's something about lying. So we live in this culture where if you lie, oh, it's terrible. Every single person lies. This is my general opinion, this is not fact, but I believe every single person lies about something sometime. It's just a fact. Whether you're lying about how great something is or how terrible something is or whatever that is. But it's frowned upon so much. But really, you weren't given a choice. It's either that or succumb to who you're not. So sorry, yeah, there's something around that.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there. Maybe we should normalise lying, but with context.
And with conscience.
Yeah.
Like, you're lying with a conscience. There's a reason you're doing it.
Absolutely. I feel like it became so exhausting for me, and it was winter, Krish. I think you know this. I'm not born for the winter. I'm not born for the cold. It does things to me. And so I was already in a bad place, and the winter just put me in an even worse place. And so I was like, right, I'm going to come home and tell them today. So I came home and I told my mum, I was like, look, you must have seen, like, my personality has changed in the past few months. I'm not myself. And I mean, that in itself is a whole conversation, right? Like mental health in brown households. Like, I can't even, yeah. And weirdly, my mum just was fine. Like, she just completely understood. She was like, okay, I understand. And even to have the nod of okay, to hear I understand, that was enough. If she said nothing else, like, I could have died in that moment and everything would have been okay. And it really goes to show, like, the power of words and how words do hold meaning and can send an emotion down you. And that's what it did for me in that moment. And that allowed me to be more vulnerable. And then I thought, oh my God, is this a test? Is she just doing this? And then I'm going to tell her more and then that's it. But, you know, she was like, I'm a bit sad, you know, obviously you're not going to get a degree, but I also want you to be happy. I don't want you to be moping around the house. You know, what is it that you want? I just said, can I have some time? I need some time to figure out what it is that I want to do. And, you know, from there, I think that then allowed me to go on that journey of discovery, of exploration. The University of Humanity, like you mentioned, I learned a lot. And I think going back to what you said about being the change you wish to see, like, you have to create that change in yourself if you want change in your environment. And I think that's what I did. I became that change in my house and people around me began to change. My mum especially, like, I would come and share those learnings with her about, like, everything I learned about trees that day. And it would open her mind up and get her thinking differently, because she wasn't just watching the dramas on TV or like having the gossip calls with her friends on the phone. It allowed her to go down her own path of discovery as well, as a mother, as a sister, as a wife. And I feel like me being that beacon of change in the house really did allow for others to question their own paths and journeys as well.
That's so powerful, and it shows. Family is the hardest. Like, if you can change your family,
Honesty.
And it's what?
Honesty. I said honesty. If you can do that,
you can change the world. If you can do that,
I
and you
think
have
that's
the
why I'm
courage
so
to do
confident
that.
now, because
Like,
I have won over my family. I can win anything.
that's it, right? You can literally change anything, because the hardest point is the family.
Yeah.
And wow, because you don't get to choose who you're born into. And I think that's really difficult, because essentially most people are with those people for as long as those people are alive, even if they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So like trying to disconnect yourself from them is really hard. But that understanding, that one word, understanding, and to be fair, your mum might not have understood, but at least she allowed herself to give you space and to try and understand you. Because if you don't understand you, how the hell are your mum and dad going to understand you?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a really, really difficult concept. So 2 years, University of Humanity, you and Kieran, I just wish I was around to like be a fly on the wall of this, some of the learnings. What did you learn during that?
Do you know what's interesting about that question is that everything I know now, after being on this journey of an entrepreneur for the past 10 years, it goes back to what I learned at 18, and it was the core of life. It's just, how do I have a good day and bring kindness to others in all that I do? I feel like going back to these basic principles, I think it's that I learned about the basic principles of life. I learned a lot about emotional intelligence, and I'm obsessed with the topic. Like, I love the topic of EQ, and as I mentioned, growing up, I was such a sensitive, aware, and hyper aware actually, and a young person with a lot of empathy, and not knowing what that is, but you're just so sensitive, Amna, like, get over it, like, you're so sensitive. I kept hearing that growing up. You're too sensitive, like, you need to toughen up because the world's not like that. And I've spent the last 10 years trying to preserve that empathy in me because the world needs it. And I think it was so damaging to hear as a child. Like, I used to hate that I was sensitive, Krish. I used to hate it so much. I just thought, how do I get rid of this sensitivity? Like, where do I join karate? Like, do I join kickboxing? Am I supposed to? Like, how do I become stronger? And I think that was my strength all along, was to feel, and to feel so intensely that it was a superpower. And I forgot my train of thought now. But I think learning about the power of empathy and emotional intelligence would be the core of what I learned during those 2 years. And then I applied it for these 10 years. And now I just feel like it's a cycle. And like, I've built this lifestyle where I feel so good giving to others, but I also feel so good receiving that love for myself as well. And if I don't receive it from others, I'm able to generate it myself. And it's just really beautiful to know that I have that access because I put in the learning at a young age. And sometimes, you know, I meet people who are way older than me and they're like, oh my God, you're like an old soul. And I get that because I feel like at that time when everyone went away to uni at 18 and they were doing like drinking sessions and freshers week and going out and having a great time and, you know, dating and bonding and making new friends, I genuinely was sitting at home with a candle reading a book. And it was strange for an 18-year-old at that time to be doing that, but it brought me a lot of solace. And I still carry that with me today. You've
just basically talked about my whole life in 5 minutes.
Are we the same person?
That's what I'm really thinking. Like, it was just like, I was always told I'm too sensitive, or I need to toughen up, or Krish, your head's in the clouds, the world's not a great place and you need to figure out that the world isn't a great place. Or you always see the best in people, you need to stop doing that. And all this side of things, and it's like, I always tried to get rid of it. I just couldn't figure out how to, and it was like it's part of me. I just feel people, and you're just talking about the power of empathy, and it's just incredible. Honestly, this is so
I'm getting
good.
goosebumps.
like, why is it? And I'm on this journey as well. Like, why is empathy and emotional intelligence, because it goes hand in hand, so important? Like, why is that such an important trait to have? And is it learnt, or can it be something that's lived and you have naturally? I think, well, actually, that side of it, you do have it naturally if you do have it naturally, but can it be learnt?
Absolutely. But I feel like as a society, as communities, I mean, babies, right, we're born with no bias, no prejudice, nothing. We're just born neutral, right? And then we take on everyone's baggage and we wear it as our own. We're like, oh, now we don't like those people because of this. But you weren't like that. You didn't come into the world like this. And I feel like we don't lean into the empathy side of ourselves more. We lean into that kind of tough exterior. We need to make it in this world. We need to survive, like that survival kind of scarcity mindset where it's like, this is mine and it can't be yours. But there's enough for everyone. And I think we need to adopt more of that thinking and that mindset, because essentially we're all one. And I think the more we have these conversations, I didn't know that about you. I didn't even know that we literally are living the same life out here. You with the dessert shop and me with the pound. I feel like, and can I ask you something actually? Because
although questions usually come from this side, but okay, go for it.
I hear you.
It's mutual, always go for it, mate.
What you said was so interesting, because I feel like growing up, I was told I was so sensitive, and I felt like it's something that's always said to a lot of girls growing up, like even in my family, like it's been said to other women too. What was it like being said to you, and how did you find that? Because generally in the world, in speaking, like, men are meant to be seen as strong, tough, like.
So from my perspective, the other side of it, on my side, is I'm mixed race. So I've got my mum's white, blonde hair, blue eyes, and my dad's Indian. So my identity was, I'm getting told all these different things and I don't fit in. It came out in me as anger. I was an angry child. When I played football, I would punch people. And I'm not proud to say that. I remember as a young age, I'd bully other children, and I didn't know why. And it's because essentially I have this sensitivity, but I'm told it's not good. So I'm really trying not to. So how do I prove that or whatever? And it comes out as anger towards the world, towards individuals, towards myself. And yeah, it was really, really difficult. I don't understand. And I guess I'm still figuring it out, really, as to why people would say that. I think it's fear. I think there must be a fear that people say, you know what, Amna, you need to be less sensitive. Because essentially what they're saying is, I'm fearful that you'll be taken advantage by other people. So it's fear and lack of trust in the other people. So instead of everyone raising to our standards of believing in the potential of everyone and really having empathy, what they're saying is lower your standards because you shouldn't believe in everyone else. But if you believe everyone else and your standards are up here, then surely everyone else will start to raise their standards. What's the harm in that? Is, oh, well, actually, you're going to get taken advantage of. I'd rather be taken advantage of 50 times and have that one person who raises their standards as opposed to just being like that, and then you're never going to get that one person. So it's like, there's a saying that one of our ambassadors, Demetrius Fraser, says, he says, when one ship rises or one boat rises in the ocean, all of them rise. And it's kind of like, you're that one. Everyone else will rise in their own time, whenever that is, but they will. But we were doing this as children, without knowing we were doing it. I'm really not arrogant, I'm really stubborn. I'm really, really stubborn.
I'm really stubborn.
And it's definitely one of my, if someone tells me, say sorry to that person, and I don't feel like I'm not saying sorry to that person because I'm not sorry about it. I literally remember no, I'm not gonna do that. That's not me. So I'm the most stubborn individual ever. which I'm sure Mel and my family are like, but it's one of those things that if I wasn't stubborn, I would have just given in. You know, I would have given up and I would have conformed to their way, which was not my way. And I'm the depression, the struggles that you had, essentially it's everything that I went through. Like, I remember going to my parents and saying, look, Mum, Dad, I've got depression. And he's like, what does that mean? I was like, I just don't want to be. I don't know why I don't want to be here. I just have no purpose. I feel like I don't fit in. Essentially, all I've been trying to do my whole life is fit into a community. When you ask why did I create Tales to Inspire, one of the reasons may be because I wanted to create the community that I never had, you know? And I can't believe I've not even talked about GirlDreamer yet. So
that's why I set up GirlDreamer, because I wanted to do the exact same thing. I wanted women to feel safe to say what they wanted to be.
That's it.
That's it. We can end the podcast here.
Boom, mic drop. But let's go into that, right? So let's go into 2 years of learning. Is that when you and Kieran said, you know what, after all this learning, we're both at a point where we want to create the community for women who've been in the same situation as us? Is that what it was?
I'm going to fast forward a little bit to that, because there was a bunch of other stuff, like we volunteered for an American charity that was setting up in the UK.
Doing what?
Youth and education charity that works in schools in inner city areas, and keeps the retention rate of children.
And were you working behind the scenes, or were you working like?
We were one of the mentors to the children. So we'd work with secondary school aged kids from about 14 to 16 years old, and we did that for 2 years and got to go to America, just the two of us out of the whole cohort, because we just presented ourselves as these leaders, because we'd done the work, and we went on this trip, and that trip honestly changed my life. I told you as a child I really was fascinated by the US. Getting to go there and stand like on a New York street, it honestly does things to you. And I knew in that moment, like, you know, when you dream of something that you haven't touched, tasted, smelt, felt, you can dream of it in a specific way, and you're like, you know, I really wish that I can do this thing, I really want to drive that car, I really want to go and live in Dubai, whatever. But you know, when you've gone and experienced it, you bring that feeling back. I almost feel like you can quantum jump into that moment again, and the manifestation becomes so much more easier to attain. And so we volunteered for that charity, and then we left, and then after that we realised we really enjoy working with young girls, because in the school we were working with 14 to 16-year-old girls. And in that school we developed an after-school club called the AK Club, which was initials for our name. And in that club we essentially sat with the girls, and we talked about everything to do with women, girls, what it is. Tell me about growing up. What's it like in your house? What do you want to be? And what do you want to do? Who do you want to aspire to become? And we felt like they didn't have any aspirations outside of, oh, miss, I want to get married and drive a Range Rover and marry someone rich. And we were like, well, why do you want to do that? Because they're like, oh, well, we're not allowed to go to college, so we'll marry someone who has, and then we'll get to benefit off him. And honestly, that broke me, because I thought, maybe that stuff happened when I was in school, but the fact that it's still happening, and at the time I was like 24, it's like, oh no, it's genuinely causing me pain to hear this, and I don't want it. And they didn't want it. You could tell on a deeper level, they didn't even want this for themselves, but they had told themselves that, no, this is what I want. When we scratched and scratched and scratched and went below the surface, all of a sudden, oh, miss, I want to be a pilot, I want to be an air hostess, I want to go and be a footballer, I want to go and do this. And all of a sudden, these dreams came out. And then what was difficult was at the end of the year, it was like, okay, then kids, bye, like, you know, we're going to go. And then once you leave, they're just left in that same environment with the same teachers who are just about doing their normal kind of teaching maths 5 times a day. You know, no one really is going to invest that time into those kids and really pull out their stories. And then we thought, you know, how do we create something that we can sustain this change, like, and sustain these stories and bring in this community that can stay? And so fast forward, we developed this idea to run a non-profit organisation called GirlDreamer. Did we have any idea of what to do? Absolutely not. Didn't even know how to register a company, didn't even know what accounts were, didn't even know what taxes meant, didn't even pay them. I think it was the first year and got in trouble. But, you know, we learned on the job. We registered an organisation, 6 months did nothing. Someone mentioned something about who we use as our accountant, and we said, oh, for what? They were like, your accounts? You know, they're due in a few months. And we were like, no, we didn't know that. And so, you know, it was very difficult for us, but we were passionate. I think that's what it was. We had so much passion. It was oozing from everywhere. We were just like, we just want to channel this passion into this organisation, and we gave everything, Krish. Like, we worked like 18 hours a day. We'd come home, Kieran would go to her house, I'd come to mine, and be on the phone to each other like, have you written this document? Have you done that? Have you done this? And we'd be in meetings sometimes, like in board meetings, literally with Google on our phone like this. People would ask us something and I'd quickly Google it. Kieran would do like the beginning intro, and then I'd quickly like come in. And that's how we survived running an organisation, because we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, sometimes still, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm better at winging it now. And I've learned a few things, but I feel like it's been quite a journey. I think we're going into our 9th year now. And it's crazy to say that, because this idea started in my attic bedroom and Kieran's bedroom, and it was just on a pen and paper, and we've gone around the world and hopefully impacted lives.
So 9 years, what do you do to support these women?
Essentially, we create greater access and opportunities to leadership and well-being for young women of colour aged 18 to 35 in the UK. And since the pandemic, our work all went online because obviously lockdown. And since 2020, we've had opened up to the world. And so we've now gone global. And yeah, it's been wild, because we've gone from doing things like creating the UK's first all women of colour longboarding crew to launching our very own Dream Fund, which essentially provides women of colour with the financial aid and the business resources to start their own social enterprises. And to date now, we've supported over 40 different organisations in the UK to go and live out their dreams. And you know, I feel like we've done it all. We've delved in arts, tech, business, finance, sports, leadership, and essentially it's about creating the space and the access for women of colour to dream freely and to have the freedom to dream.
So if I'm a woman of colour, I'm 27 years old, and I resonate with everything that you've said. I'm based in Portsmouth, and essentially I reach out. Do I have to apply? Is it you go through another organisation to get in? Is it a 6-month programme? Is it a 3-year programme? Is it a one-off workshop you get? Like, what do you get out of it, and how do you go about it?
That's a great question. So when people first discover us, essentially it's about becoming a part of the community. So it's like walking into my house, for example. The first step is to come in and to feel welcomed. And so that is the community building that we do. So we host different events throughout the year. So we have supper clubs where every month we meet at a restaurant, which is led by a woman of colour chef. And so, you know, we're going to dine around a table, have a feast, get to know each other. Sometimes, sorry. Sometimes they're themed, sometimes they're not, so it's quite free-flowing. The other events are, you know, we run different meetups, we go hiking, we go on walks, we host events in our office space, so that's the community side of things. And then we have an app called the Dream State, which houses all our community members, and essentially it's like an Instagram meets LinkedIn, in the sense that you can post, but there's no like feature. So we've taken away all the kind of features that make you hooked, and it's just about interacting. So you can comment, you can create your own forum. So like you could set up Conspiracy Club and talk about all the wildest conspiracies, and like people would join that. Or you could be like relocating to the US, and people would join that. And so if I'm in Japan and I'm like, hey, I'm in Japan, any GirlDreamers here? And then hopefully some people will respond and be like, I'm not, but my friend lives there, you should go meet up with her. And so it's a safe space for women of colour to be themselves and to interact with each other. That's the community side of things. And then the actual...
Do they get access out of that forever? Or is it as soon as they hit 35, then they've got to leave that group?
No. They're in there forever. Once you're in, you're in.
Oh, right, okay.
And the actual material side of stuff, which is the work that we do. So we have different openings throughout the year. So the Dream Fund operates 4 times a year, every quarter. So we have an opening now at the moment, actually, it's live until April 2nd, where you can put in an application form and apply for £2,500 to kickstart your dream. And essentially you'll be put onto our programme, go through a 12-week course of learning about different business resources and getting that acumen of what it's like to be a leader as a woman of colour, because it comes with its own territory. Marketing, finance, logistics, all the things that we didn't know. And like I said, I was under the table Googling. We've put now into a resource, into this course, to just say, here's everything we've learned in 10 years. Go and learn it in 12 weeks and fast track your way to being a leader.
And who leads that programme?
So we lead it in-house, and then
Right.
we bring on professionals in different areas of expertise like marketing, business, finance. So we work with other women of colour who are killing it in their own industries and bring them on as partners.
And how many people per cohort?
10.
10 people, they get to kind of connect together. And is it in person or online, or do you do both?
Both.
You do both, okay. Amazing, wow. This is I'm so fascinating, and it's so impactful. So what are some of the things that you have seen, the impact that you have created?
There's so many stories. I don't know which one to pick out, but I think one of the most recent ones is we were in Dubai last month for work. We're doing a project out there with the University of Birmingham, and whilst there, I put out a LinkedIn post about a conference I was at, and one of my GirlDreamers instantly DM'd me. I was like, I'm in Dubai as well. Like, do you have time for a coffee? Like, I'd love to take you and meet up and like meet in person. And luckily I had some time, and I was like, yes, let's do this. Let's meet for coffee. And so we went. So Krish, this woman, she joined our surfing retreat 2.5 years ago down in Cornwall, where we run like annual surfing retreats, right? We didn't know her before this, so she came on our retreat, she came to surf, she'd never surfed before. And at the time she was telling us about this idea she had about creating a toy that involves children to learn about STEM. And for every toy sold, they would give one to a refugee child. Today, this woman now, this GirlDreamer, she'd flown to about 30 countries in 6 months, meeting with investors. Her product has taken off, like it's gone crazy. And she came to the surfing retreat with this idea, and having that community of women around her, hyping her, saying, oh my God, like this is amazing, you should do this, like the world needs more women like you. And you don't get to hear that in your normal environments. Maybe you never hear that at home, especially if like you were me. But where do you go outside of work and home to hear those things, those third spaces? Those spaces that make you feel safe, make you feel seen, make you feel like you can just be you. And so on that retreat, I feel like there were so many women around her, like from our staff team to like the other women who were on the retreat as well, believing in her. And of course her self-belief and the other people she has in her life to motivate her to pursue this. And she was like, I'm quite apprehensive, like the VC space is quite male dominated, and like only 2% of VC funding goes to women. It's even less for women of colour. Like, how will I do this? Right now, investors are fighting to invest in her product, and for me, that's one of the biggest highlights. And seeing her tenacity, her confidence, and just how calmly fierce she is with it now. Like, she'll just rock up to these meetings in Japan or in New York. I think she's in New York right now, meeting with investors, and to know that she was on a GirlDreamer retreat is so powerful, because not only did the community give to her, she's also giving to the community, and that's what it is, that cycle of empowerment where every resource brought in is a resource shared. So it's so powerful.
There's something really, really special around everything that you're talking about. Now, is this GirlDreamer a lifelong project for you?
Yes and no. Yes, because I co-birthed it. It will always be a part of me. Whether the company closes, whether we sell it, whether like we pass it on to someone else, or we move out the way as co-founders or CEOs, I feel like I will always be connected eternally to GirlDreamer. However, there is a chapter in my life now where I'm looking to explore what's next. I feel like, you know, when you've given to something so deeply, so passionately, and then there comes that point, like the octopus, like the mother, she gives everything and ensures maximum optimal survival until her children are born. I think that's the way, or until she lays, I don't know, something to do with that.
Yeah, and then passes away afterwards.
I feel like, I mean, that's a bit dramatic for me right now.
You're not passing away, are you? Right.
I feel like I'm at that phase right now in life where I'm like, what's my dream? You know, at 18, my dreams were all knocked down. So I built the thing that enabled others to dream. Now I'm ready to go and pursue what my dream is. Like, I'm fully ready to do that now. I know it's not sports anymore because I cannot run that time, and I haven't played football in years, but it's something where I want to give my expertise, my skill set in empathy, in understanding the human-to-human connection. And I want to explore what that looks like. I want to see me in different situations, scenarios and settings, and almost see myself from the third point of view of what am I doing? You know, if I walk up to a building and I see myself inside that, what am I doing with people? You know, am I leading something? Am I partaking in something? Am I teaching something? Am I, you know, what am I doing? And I've got the itch again now to explore the next chapter.
Oh, amazing. It's just incredible. Now, it's like you grow out, you get into a shell, you get to the maximum growth, then you find a new shell, then you go, and then, you know what I mean? And it's just growth. It's the power of growth. And I hope that never ever stops for you. Like, you continue to grow or strive to grow forever. I think that's the power of learning. You know, that's the power of the University of Humanity. It is a lifelong learning. Some of the oldest people I've ever met have been the youngest in spirit. But then I've met young people who've been so old and like defeatist because, oh, what's the point? It's the spirit, and it's the spirit of learning, the spirit of growth, and the spirit of development. And you've got it in abundance, mate. You've got it in abundance. And we've not even talked about the Obama. We've not even talked about the US, really, have we? We said we were going to talk about the US so much. The Obama scholarship that you got. It's
going to be a 5-hour podcast.
Yeah, I know. But let me know. Let me check at the time. We're good. It's fine. So the Obama scholarship. How did that come about? What is it, and what did that do for you?
It was wild to be selected to be an Obama Scholar. Essentially, I was one of 12 leaders selected from around the world, and I went to New York for the year, representing the UK. And essentially, it's a scholarship program in collaboration with Columbia University in New York City and Obama Foundation. And it selects 12 leaders working in social impact around the world. I don't think there's an age limit, but it just says young, so I considered myself young, and applied, and I went through the different rounds of interviews, and when I got that email to say I was selected, I cannot tell you, like genuinely cannot tell you the feeling. Like, I just threw my laptop screen down and I was like, I can't believe it. Like, does that say congratulations, or what did that just say? And so, you know, an hour later, I opened my laptop again and I'm like, oh my God, I've done it, I've got in. They told me in May and I had to leave in August, and I'm fully running an organization. Like, I had 2 months to essentially wind down my role for the year and just leave Kieran to it and be like, all right, well, I'm going to New York now. So that was very interesting in the sense that we've always worked together, me and my co-founder, and we're best friends as well. And now having this opportunity, I was like, you know, when one of us make it, we both make it. Like, I was like, you're coming with me. And so throughout the year, Kieran visited me like many different times, but essentially I moved in August until May the next year, and it was a year-long program of developing yourself as a leader. So you get to pick any 2 courses in the world, like any 2 courses, from like dentistry to like astrophysics, at Columbia University. So you're learning in one of the best institutions in the world. So obviously I didn't pick dentistry or astrophysics, and they were like, you should pick something that's related to your line of work. And so you audit the class, so there's no coursework, no exams, which I was like, yes, this is my dream. And so I selected courses around race, gender, political change, NGOs and the human rights movement, stigma, which was an excellent course that I learned so much about, like stigmatization of marginalized people. And the other 2 days in the week were reserved for leadership development. So this is when the foundation would bring in like top experts and leaders, where you'd have a round table, essentially learn from their story and get to ask them anything. And in between that time, you know, I got to travel the States and explored so many different areas and live out so many of my dreams. And I just cannot wait to go back. Honestly, it's been one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life so far. Getting to live in New York City, like with no cost, like because you have a stipend, they pay for everything, your accommodation, housing, food, travel, and give you spending money as well, because New York is expensive. Mashed potatoes, $20. I'm not kidding. And
you eat a lot of mashed potatoes?
I did not, but I walked into Whole Foods. It was Whole Foods, but we have Whole Foods in London, like it's not that expensive, but $20 for ready-made mashed potatoes and $12 for lemons. Come on, $12. Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah.
We don't need lemons that bad.
No.
So yeah, it was incredible, Krish, to learn in that way where you don't have to worry about your paycheck or worry about, oh my God, you know, I need to do this now, I need to do that. It felt so free-flowing. And I feel like that's the best state to learn in, when you don't have any, obviously it's a privilege to be in that circumstance, but it was phenomenal, honestly eye-opening.
Wow. And from that, you've got all the learnings of the subjects, the meeting the people, the experts and all of that. I guess you was able to, because this is quite recent, when did you complete it?
I got back last June.
Okay, so you got back last June, and then has it opened, is that part of the reason why you now feel, right, I've got to go and explore more, find out more, and the next stage is because, do you think that's played a role in that?
Definitely.
You kind of seen what's out there, the individuals, what they're doing, and right, on to the next one.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not just that, but hear me out. I feel like it's turning 30 as well. So when I turned 30, which was like 2 years ago now, I feel like I went through a shift. I stepped into this new character who wanted different things, and I feel like that's okay, but I really want them now. And the calling's getting louder and louder, and it keeps ringing, and before I could hear something in the background, but I could tone it out. Now it's becoming so strong that I need to go and follow it and really unpick what that next chapter looks like. And being in the States, like I said, without any worry in the world of now I need to do this to make money, or I need to write that funding bid, or do this or do that, it really opened up my eyes to what's possible. And I feel like to really understand the kind of limitless possibility of life, to do that in New York, it's beautiful, because as I said earlier, the American dream and the idea of anything is possible, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Adopting that mindset whilst being there was phenomenal, because again, had no worry in the world. Mixed with that, pair those together, it felt so unstoppable. But then it was like, oh, your visa's run out, you need to go back now. And so it's inspired me to a whole different degree, and I'm ready to embark upon that chapter.
So, talk to me. I am the most biased person when it comes to the US in a positive way. You talked about the American dream. Sometimes when people say the American dream, it can bring negative parts of it. But when you talk about the American dream, and I talk about this, it's the unlimited potential and possibilities, right? It's the Amna, you've got an idea, I'll give you 10 reasons why you can do it, and not like what it is in where I'm from, in Bolton, I'll give you 10 reasons why you can't do it or shouldn't do it, or the culture that we've been brought up in. So what is it about the US, but it may not just be the US, there may be parts in certain areas of the world and certain cultures within certain workplaces that connects with you that is so powerful?
That's such a good question. So I travel a lot now, and when I go around the world, I think one thing I look for and that I'm drawn to is kindness. I really love this idea of a kind community of people, and especially in the US, I love it so much because, my family are very skeptical. Like, none of my family have been to the US. I don't think they're planning on going either, but I just can't help but, I feel like I have lived like 100 different lifetimes of life in the US. I'm so drawn to this idea of community and togetherness. And I spoke to an American about this, and they mentioned something interesting about how they don't have a social system like the NHS and stuff like that. So it makes them bond with each other more because they have to look out for one another. And amongst many other things that happen in the US that are difficult, it means that they have to rely on each other and have this sense of community. But I find naturally, like, I've visited primary schools in the US too. The culture, like, I played a game with a group of children. They were about 6 years old, and I did something wrong and I didn't make the score. And the little boy came up to me and said, "Oh, that's okay. Don't worry. Like, have another go. Like, you got this." I was like, that confidence and that kind of that open thinking towards life and failure as well at such a young age. It's like, it doesn't matter if you fail, just try again. Whereas, like, I find that timidness and that reserved nature in the UK is more apparent, and I feel like environment influences you in so many different ways. But for myself, I've almost had this jacket of preservation over me throughout my life, where I've kept myself so away from British culture in that sense, and immersed myself in everything to do with American culture. Some might call it a bit obsessive, but I don't really care. And when I'm there, I genuinely feel like I can, like, drop my shoulders down and I'm home. Like, I feel so relaxed. I feel like I am now with my community. And
isn't that mad, right? And I have the exact same feeling as soon as I'm in the US, I'm like, this is where I can thrive and not try and fight to survive. Yeah. Like, I am here, not with a parachute pulling me back, and this isn't even from individuals, this is from a system and a culture to one that's actually pushing me forward, saying, you can do it, go for it, reach for the stars. And I'm like, right, actually, sometimes I'm like, actually even behind the scenes, like, actually I'm even trying to get ahead. There's something you talked about there as well, which is really powerful. You talked about living more, doing more within your life. And back in 2020 now, 2018, when I went to Uganda and built a school in Uganda, I made the determination that I only had 2 weeks in Uganda, that I was going to do as much as someone living in a year in those 2 weeks. So I was able to build a schoolhouse, was able to get things started, and then it got finished a year later. But people are like, how did you do that? And I've kind of had this theory in my life that I'm going to live 10 years worth of life in every year that I live. So that by the time I die, when I'm, let's say, for example, 60, hopefully I get past 60, but I've actually lived 600 years worth of life, as opposed to trying just like squeezing as much out of this lifetime as possible. And the times that I feel most down is when I feel like my life's stuck or I'm doing the same thing over and over again, because I don't feel like I'm doing that. So for you to feel, so whoever's watching this, get Amna out to the US quick so that she can go and live the life that she needs to help as many people as possible.
Krish, we are so alike. I'm genuinely, like, you were saying that and I was in my head like, yep, that's me. Because I'm even that person, like, when I go away, I'm up at 5 a.m. in the morning, I'm like, right, the itinerary begins, like, let's go. My friends are like, God, like, we're on holiday, like, relax. I'm like, no, we need to go and see this, we need to go and do that, we need to jump off this cliff and we need to swim there. And because I want to throw myself into the experience so deeply that, like, I absorb as much as possible. And that idea of like, you want to live 10 years in 1 year, I'm right there with you.
And I'm not saying we take the easy life, the easy route. What I say is we take the most joyful one and the one that connects the most. Yeah. You know, the easy route is not always the greatest, but the one that's most worthwhile. I guess the one with the best story.
Absolutely. And I feel like time feels so different when you're enjoying it. Like it moves so fast and I'm like, oh my God, like how has it only been 10 days, but I feel like I've been living this thing for like 15 months or something. It feels crazy.
Amna, it's the quick fire question round.
Oh God.
So how this is going to work. So Amna yesterday asked me for the questions of today and I was like, oh man, please don't ask, that's the worst. So I provided a little bit of a structure, but the quick fire, no one gets the quick fire round. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to start the sentence, you're going to finish the sentence. You don't have to explain anything about it because we're going to be going straight on to the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Ready?
Let's do this.
Life is about.
Life is about.
Finish it.
The little things.
Family should.
Listen more.
A true culture.
Is made up of happy people.
Friendship can.
Have the power to build.
Being a leader.
Means having empathy.
I love that. That is so special.
There's so much stress right now. I was like, where can this go?
Where can this go? A true education.
Can be learned outside of books.
I love that. Love that. How much of where you're at right now is due to luck and how much of it is due to hard work?
I'm going to say all of it's due to hard work because I'm tired.
I love that. If there was a government rule, the Amna Akhtar rule, what would that be and why?
If there was a rule, a government rule.
One that was implemented and people would have to take notice of.
No visas and all travel is free.
I love it.
We're going to the US.
We're going back. Listen up, wherever those cameras are, we are going. If you were to give advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that advice be?
Don't care and do it anyway.
I love that. The future is about?
Coming together.
Oh, amazing. So that comprises of our quickfire questions, Amna. So before we go into the next bit is, how can people find out about you, GirlDreamer? Where do they go to find out more?
So we're on all social media platforms, apart from TikTok. And our handle is It's GirlDreamer. And then our website is www.girldreamer.co.uk. I don't have social media. I only have LinkedIn, which is Amna Akhtar 14, I think. And I have my own website, which is aestheticallyamna.co.uk. And I have a newsletter, so you can subscribe to it. I send out monthly emotional intelligence and wellness tips.
As Amna,
as me, yeah.
Right, okay, amazing. Okay, well, we'll put all that into the show notes so people can find out more. So my last two questions, Amna, that I've asked every Tales to Inspire guest. So this is over 150 people now since we started doing this in 2019.
Wow, 150 people.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been a great journey. But we've had so many different answers for these two questions. So my first question is, Amna Akhtar, what is your definition of the word inspire?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would say my definition of the word inspire is to give life to something, is to move something from one state to another, from down to up, from left to right, from here to there. I feel like it's literally about breathing life into something.
Providing that action point so something goes, breathing life into something that is special. That is really special. And my final question, Amna, that we've asked every Tales to Inspire ambassador is, if you were to live your best life, right, you get into your 80s, 90s, 100s, and you're looking back on your life.
Hundreds.
Hey, let's be ambitious, right? And imagine that's like 1,000 years worth of life if you got to that. So that is mad. You get to that stage and you're looking back on your life and you think, you know what, I've lived the life that I wanted to live. What's the biggest impact or greatest achievement you want to have achieved during your lifetime?
I would say when I'm 100 and I've lived 1,000 years worth of life and I'm just sitting in my rocking chair on my porch, I want to know that I gave everything a go that I desired to explore. I don't want to feel like, I wonder what that would have felt like, or that would have tasted like, or been like, or felt like. I want to know that I gave everything a go, and to live as much life as possible, knowing that I pursued my heart's desires.
Wow, that's incredible. I recently asked Mel, and we spoke about this, that what's my biggest fear? And my biggest fear is not fulfilling my potential.
Yeah.
You know, and what you've just described there is essentially is ensuring that you always live to your potential.
I think we're the same person.
We literally are. Amna, thank you so much for being on the Tales to Inspire podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please leave a comment in the comment section below, and we cannot wait to see you for our next episode.